We
Now
are
remember,
live. Okay.
you don't want to say that we're live right away because then the beginning gets cut off for our YouTube audience.
Mm-hmm.
Now they can see us.
Mm-hmm.
How exciting.
Guys, did you know that this is Literary Roadhouse? One short story once a week. And I'm Andy.
I'm Anise.
Wow, that was a great introduction. And I'm Gerald.
It was. It had a lot of pizzazz.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah,
You should bring that
lot of-
energy
and a
lot
lot
of
of
energy.
extras.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for early in the morning. Awesome.
Mhm.
So this week we read a story called Foster by Bryan Washington. And Foster is the story about a cat. It opens with a cat. And then it's a lot more sex than I expected between Foster's person and Foster's person's boyfriend, Owen. We don't give Foster's person's name, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I
okay.
looked for it.
So the human person who's our protagonist tells us about this cat that his brother dropped off through his brother's not girlfriend because his brother's in prison. We find out the brother's in prison for accidentally killing a guy, but only after he on purpose killed a different guy. And so that's a weird little tidbit. And then the person and his boyfriend are having a whole bunch of sex without climax for a lot of time, just a lot. And then the cat gets sick eventually. Also, the cat's really a total jerk to the person, but super nice to Owen, the boyfriend,
Oh.
because Owen's nice to the cat also. And finally, we give the cat a name, and it's Taku. It's named after someone who was nice to him in Japan. But we don't find out more about that for later because we get a bunch of stuff out of sequence. And what happens? They get in a fight. The cat gets sick. Cat gets sick. They take it to the vet, and the vet gives it some medicine. And it turns out the cat's real old. And I go, oh, man, is the cat going to die? Nah, he gets better. And then gets in a fight with the boyfriend, and Owen leaves. And then turns out the brother shot a guy who was trying to hold up his pawn shop and then didn't want to call the police because he was black and the guy who was holding up the pawn shop was white. So instead he just fled the scene, and in fleeing the scene hit a kid and killed him. And so that sucked. And then it ends with the last thing. Oh, we find out about Taku's namesake, which was a nice man in Japan who we weren't sure if he was gay or not, but they were real close friends for a while, and they just never kind of pushed the romantic angle of their relationship, but it was really intimate and friendly.
I think it was definitely. Just to interrupt your summary for 2 seconds, because Taku, the Japanese man, not the cat, says, "Where have you been all my life?"
Right. Well, it was super intimate, like super.
Pretty romantic.
Well, it wasn't sexual, I don't think.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know from the way they said it.
They stayed at that hotel. Remember where they shared the futon and stuff?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You think they had sex?
Yeah.
The story told us explicitly about all the other sex, which is why
I know, but I have a theory as to why that one was relevant, even if I agree with your tone. We're like, okay, there's a lot. But I kind of understand like what that was building to.
Okay. Well, good. Maybe you can fill me in. Because then the story just ends and I kind of hate it. Where it's like, and then the human person comes back and it's like, oh no, he left the door open. And did the cat get out? Because that's the one thing he wasn't supposed to do, was let the cat out. But no, Owen just came back and the cat's sitting there. It's real nice.
Mm-hmm.
And also his brother's a shit, kind of. That's the end of
his
the story.
mom too. We only learned one thing about his mom, but his mom sucks.
His mom sucks.
Yeah, it's
His
big
mom
time.
sucks. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm sure she has her own stuff and she's her own complicated person, but from the small window and the narrator's perspective, she sucks. Okay. I mean, it sounds like she had it rough too, but
It sounds like she had it rough.
it sounds like she had it rough. Yes, we can be sympathetic to the mom, but come on.
I assume his dad sucks.
His dad sucks more for sure.
Right.
Yeah, his dad sucks way more than mom. But
Right.
mom sucks a bit too.
His brother kind of sucks.
Yeah, his brother kind of sucks. Okay, so you know who doesn't suck though? Owen.
Yeah,
All right.
Owen seems nice.
Well, he does a bit.
Why?
He did walk off. Yeah, he walked off.
Yeah, he walked off because the narrator pushed his one trigger, the one thing that Owen's sensitive about. The narrator's like, I'm gonna for no reason poke you right in that open gaping wound at all times. All right, yeah, I can see why Owen's pissed. Narrator knew what he was doing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he came back. Of his own. The narrator didn't apologize or send a letter or anything.
Nope.
Owen came back on his own.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We're jumping ahead in the discussion, which is a sign of a good story. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Is it?
We have little things. Well, I mean, I always go last with the overall impression. My overall impression, and we were kind of talking about this before, is as I read the story, I know this is one of those stories that has a lot of fat that you can chew on, right? What's with all the gratuitous, when did dialogue happen? Before or after we had sex? And also say we had sex is precious, guys. Explicit warning. It's every time we fucked, right? It's always in those terms. And it's and did not climax. Okay, right. Analyzing, it's one of those stories that's, you know how we sometimes talk about the literary analysis kind of meta game that goes on? This story lends itself to that. Even if on a more personal reader level, by the end of it, I was a bit emotionally for myself. I wasn't taken on an emotional ride. And by the end of it, I was but I understand it's got layers. You can talk about it. There's a lot to analyze. It seems like not a lot happens, but we're already debating things about it. So yeah, there is more beneath the surface. It's definitely got an iceberg thing to it. I just, as I've read it, I don't think I was emotionally hooked. Yeah.
Yeah. I was definitely, I liked the cadence of the language and the, a lot of the little funny quips. I was on board. And I was on board with all the cat stuff. Let me just tell you, if anyone wants to write a short story about a cat, that's a good way to get me to read it. All right. Just have Taku being a jerk at people for no reason.
Yes,
good.
That's a cat.
I'll read that all day long. But right, I don't know. I very much enjoyed the process of reading this story, and then it was over, and I was like, meh. So what does that mean? What does that mean when you say meh?
Yeah. Gerald, what about you? Your overall experience?
My overall experience was not good. I because I'm British, I'm quite prudish, and I
don't know. That's not what I heard about the Secretary of Health.
No,
I was gonna be there's a bunch of lewd ass Brits out there be hey, we exist.
Hey, you, hey,
yeah,
tight ass.
We exist and we fuck other Brits out there.
Oh yeah, we can say fuck in this one.
Yeah, we can.
Wow,
right?
Really?
The story's definitely about fucking.
But do we have to? Just because
no, it's
we
not
can?
about it.
Yes. We must because we can.
It doesn't mean we should. Well, that's. I think that's the thing. That's the thing because it's verging. Gerald. This story is verging on one of those stories where I feel that the author is trying to shock me rather than tell me a story, and I don't like that. I don't like. I think it's unnecessary. I think you can convey what you're trying to say without the shock factor of the quite graphic sexual content. It puts me off. I'm very sorry. It puts me off. And it's not
is it just the F-bombs for you?
What?
I was going to say, is it just the F-bombs for you?
Oh, no.
That's what we call the word fuck here in America.
Okay. Is it? Okay. It's much easier to say fuck. It's not the F-bombs. It's not the F word. Not at all. No, I'm because it's keeping, but it's actual description of sexual acts, which it's probably me, and it's probably just a thing about me. But I think it's unnecessary, and I think sometimes authors do this to say, "Hey, I can do this. I can use the word fuck, and I can talk about sexual things," and it strikes me as unnecessary. That's all. So unlike Andy, who enjoyed the reading of it, I disliked the reading of it.
Okay.
But I could then, putting that to one side, I could then appreciate. It was an interesting story. It certainly, both times I read it, it kept me engaged. I liked the jumping backwards and forwards, and I was never lost. It was always clear where we were and what time frame we were in. And he did the thing of hinting at stuff and then releasing information gradually. That was good. So I don't know how I feel about it overall, though. Yes, it's me and my prudishness pulled me out of the story, and but having got through that, then it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I think because I was just scanning real quick. Most of the times where he does after or before about a fucking, normally he doesn't give description. There's like 2 places where he gives some description. It didn't really bother me because it's pretty short. Like one of them's like 2 sentences. And honestly, I couldn't even picture it. Like I couldn't even picture the physicality part of it. So it didn't even like paint anything
we didn't
in my
know head. We didn't know who was on the countertop and
yeah, or like one of them, the one that was like a little bit more graphic, guys, this is already explicit. So if you have kids, like you should stop.
Right.
But there's one where it's like I slip myself between him and he rolls on top of me, nearly flipping us. I can't picture that for some reason. I don't know what that sentence is supposed to create in my head, so I don't feel like scandalized by it, you know? Like I can't picture it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about their meat bodies, but
Owen puts his finger up his bum.
I thought that was funny, actually.
Yeah.
I laughed.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was trollish.
Funny
He's being a little troll in the bathroom. They're like doing couple things in the bathroom, and then he's just like, boom. Like they're not even having sex in that scene. Funny.
Right, that didn't
what do
even
you want
make the
about,
list of the
Gerald?
sex scenes.
Yeah, that's how
That was a
sex scene.
toothbrushing scene.
Yeah, exactly. It was a hot and scandalous, hygiene scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
there we go. So yeah, I realise it's probably me and it's probably my prudishness, and that's
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just you. Maybe
That's
leave Burton out of it. Take some
what?
personal responsibility, Gerald.
Yeah, I've taken personal responsibility. I say this. It's probably me. It's fine. But that's if you're asking for my opinion of the story, it's an opinion from me. My opinion, and my opinion is this. Thank you. My opinion is too much fun.
Now you gotta do that Real Housewives gif. It's my opinion. Okay.
Now,
anyone who doesn't know what that is.
Nobody knows what that is. Anna,
what? Many people know what that is.
Nobody does. I speak for all humans.
All right. Well,
good man. And
you
cats.
said you had some sort of grand unified theory of why the narrator and Owen fuck, and the narrator and Taku are just sort of like tangentially sweet and romantic.
Because the narrator has this emotional wall up. I think the word fuck here is doing a lot of work. It's never make love. It's Owen clearly is craving a sense of family, and nurturing Taku is like where he can start to channel that energy. Owen's the one that wants to name the cat, and the narrator's putting it off. The narrator's kind of like avoiding. He has his own issues with his own family. The one time he started sort of getting that was in Japan with Taku, and then that kind of fell apart very quickly. And they're not climaxing, and that keeps happening. They're not climaxing. And then just when they finally do, and they're like, ooh, did we hit some kind of landmark? And Owen's getting like cuddly, warm feelings. Owen definitely wants to move this from fucking to lovemaking. Like you get that sense. And he's like trying to like fish this out of him. Like, did we finally reach a land? Like, is it like something changing? And then, shortly after, the narrator is just like, let me poke all of your wounds and see what happens.
Yeah, if you want a family, why don't you get married to a woman?
Yeah, why don't you get married to a woman? Right, like, okay. So I think like the whole like we fucked and did not come, right? Like there's like this like emotional removal. It's never lovemaking. Owen's the one that's pushing towards a sense of family and something deeper. And even just things like about like I gave him a key, he lost it a few days later. He talked about moving in, but like right? Like he's just kind of like avoiding anything that is creating a sense of family. He's afraid of getting hurt again. You get the sense that that's what happened with Taku in Japan. So that's sort of where I think like why that matters to the story, right? And that's what I'm saying about this whole like iceberg thing. Like you kind of need to like weave that thread together, or else you just get the sense of like, why does it matter whether or not they had this conversation before or after they did not climax, right? Like there's a sense of like, what? You know? Yeah. That's my unified theory of why the fucking matters. Because remember, they do climax one time, and it's just before the breakup.
And maybe this is another disconnect with me, because for me, love comes before fucking. It's
very precious. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's how I am. So I don't sort of get. I have to have an emotional connection first, and so the whole thing is sort of a bit back to front for me, as it were. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, I think for a lot of people, what you're saying is true, right? They want to have an emotional connection, but that's not true for everyone. And I think in the narrator's case, it's especially not true because of his history, the walls that he has up and all of that. So we're like 16 minutes in and have only done very little analysis. I think we kind of, so I said, one of my questions is, what theme is the story exploring? I think we kind of already touched on it, which was like the family dynamic. Is there anything else about it? Andy had mentioned details around the brother's arrest and things like that.
Right. And like, man, seems like, well, I guess that's just the thing, that there's so much in here, right? For a story that has at some point some pretty, and eventually we get some pretty explicit like racial tensions and like issues about differences, like, man, goes a long time before the story introduces what anyone's racially like identifies as. Like we're way far into the story, and like my brother couldn't do that.
Yeah, I quite like that, because I can't, because it shouldn't taint how we view a story. It shouldn't. It should be, you know, it should be a story that stands on its own without any racial tension, unless it's important to the story. So, I mean, it's kind of funny. I do remember reading a James Patterson novel. I'd read lots of James Patterson novels, and I read James Patterson novel, and it suddenly
there's one you remember.
Yeah, this one I remember. It's the Alex Cross, his series character, was black, and it never occurred to me, and I was shocked. I thought, that's really clever, because, you know, yeah, it shouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, in the story, I think when it is revealed is just before or as it does matter, right? So I think that might be part of it, is it's only being revealed when it matters. So for the most part, it doesn't matter. The story of a man fostering his brother's cat who is in a relationship, there the race part doesn't matter. But the specifics around the homicide, the hit and run, the choices that the person made do matter, because that ties back to the way that race exists in society, and particularly around like law enforcement, right? I thought it was very telling.
The professor, I forgot about the professor. The professor he does all of his work with.
Yes, that was clever.
Is the anti-racism lecturer.
Yeah. The anti-racism lecturer who makes a lot of money. She's a white lady who put out a book about how not to be racist and is making a killing off of it. And then has like, I think Angel's also black, so I think has two black. Has two black employees who like basically negotiate for her to make more money. That was one of the jobs, right?
Right. They do all of the grunt work alone in the office where she never goes.
Right. Yeah.
She's much too well paid.
Because she knows how to not be racist.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess like technically that dynamic in and of itself, when you go down into the specific, right, a person employing two other people who are assistants in an office isn't. But then when you zoom out and you're like, wait, what exactly is she famous for? Wait, what is this? Now it gets right. And I think that's what happens with this story, right? When you first hear the brother is in prison for homicide, you're like, okay, that makes sense. And then you zoom out and you're like, this got real complicated real fast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, Texas is a stand your ground law, so.
Right. He would have been fine in that pawn shop.
Well, maybe not.
I don't know.
He might have been fine. He might have been fine. He was better off in the pawn shop, maybe, if he gets a good lawyer with the stand your ground stuff, and if there's camera footage that shows the other guy drew out his weapon and fired first. But yeah, stand your ground laws are not applied.
Right.
It will not shock you to learn that for some reason, stand your ground laws benefit one race over the other. Yeah, so like he might have been, but he also might not have been.
Stand your
Right?
ground
And so
laws.
the
What's
fear
that?
that he has when he flees makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
What's a stand your ground law? What's that?
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh, Gerald, let me tell you about shooting people in America.
You can do
okay.
it.
Does that
All you gotta
happen?
say is you feared for your life in certain states. That's all you
Right.
gotta do.
Okay.
Doesn't matter where you are.
You don't have to try and escape or call for help.
No.
You just shoot
You just
someone.
got it.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're afraid, you have to be
If you're
afraid.
afraid. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send you a fun clip about it. It'll make you, it'll jazz you up. It's exciting. It's exciting,
up.
especially because like there was no problem. Anyway, yeah, I will send you the clip. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, right there in Texas.
They're in Texas. Yeah. That's the first thing I thought. I'm like, stand your ground. Hello. Hello. But again, it might not have worked for him because he's black. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where race matters. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's white, and the kid he ran over was white too.
Well, right. You can't stand your ground against pedestrians when you're driving. That's not right.
Unless you shoot at them.
Yeah. Oh, if he shot the kid. No.
Wow.
No.
Probably can't.
That's very complicated.
Anyway. Yeah. So is stand your ground only with guns? Like, can you be like, I feared for my life, so like I slash someone with a knife, or does that not count? Is it only guns?
Oh man. No, I think probably it just is about deadly force. I mean, I haven't
Yeah.
done any research on the issue.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, that's just a thought I just had.
Anyway.
Okay. And other things to discuss this story.
Yeah, I quite liked the fact that he described coming out to his brother as well, and his brother goes okay, and sort of goes and gets another drink. That's
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little more negative than okay.
well.
It's
He said I don't get it.
yeah. There's a little bit of a rejection, and I don't get it. I get what you're saying, Gerald, which is not like his brother was like, I will now disown you forever, and you are the scum of the earth. He didn't do that. But being like, I don't get it, is a bit of a rejection, right? It's just like you're saying to someone, well, that's weird.
Right.
That was
You're
his
weird.
reaction. You're weird.
Let's do normal stuff now. Not that.
Yeah.
I'll be back with some cheese fries. I assume they have cheese fries. It's not made explicit.
And he called it the gay thing. It's fine, I guess.
It's fine, I guess. Right.
Yeah.
That's not quite a.
Yeah.
No, it's not quite a.
Especially when like he is a person existing in society who understands that when someone comes out to you, what they're hoping for is I support you, because you're living in a society where that might not be the case, right? Like it's not like this like the brother doesn't understand the cultural context around this. It's not a neutral thing to be like, well, that's weird to me, but it's fine if you do it. It's not neutral.
Right.
Yeah. He knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like saying I like to put, ketchup in oatmeal.
That's
right?
weird.
Oh my god.
Right. That's weird, but that's a neutral thing to say that that's weird because it objectively is, right? That's what I'm saying. The cultural context here
Well,
matters.
to your point of view, maybe.
Please write in if you put ketchup in oatmeal. All right.
Yeah.
We need to know.
Yes.
The other thing that I had, we were kind of getting through like some of the questions I had, but another one was, a little bit about the sequences that sort of things were told out of order. I thought it was very smart when he told things when certain things were revealed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys had any other thoughts or insights about that.
Yeah, just sometimes it's very annoying when people do that because they don't do it well, and this was not annoying. It was very I liked it. Right. It was the right details at the right time to match the emotional tones of the other scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you trust the author to do this. So when he foreshadows the thing about the cat's name, I think you think, okay, he will pay this off later at the right time. Because you're wondering, why do you call it that? That's a strange name for a cat. But he says, I'll tell you later. And he does.
Yep.
Taku.
Yeah. Well, he tells the reader later. He doesn't tell Owen.
No.
Right. He may never tell Owen.
No.
I think he shouldn't tell Owen, to be honest, or he should seriously downplay it, because I think Owen's going to get very jealous. Yeah. You can tell him a bit. You know what I mean? Like, just choose your words carefully and choose what you emphasize carefully.
Right, not the one true love of his life who he met in Japan and was forced asunder.
Right, yeah, like I met my one true love and we were forced asunder, so I have settled with you. Like, that's not the tone this conversation should take.
Probably not.
It should be like, different. Yeah.
Well,
and it should definitely end with, and then I found you and I'm very happy and this is the best.
yes.
And we've got a cat.
Wow.
Yeah. Named after my one true love who were torn asunder.
We won't mention that, yeah.
Right, Owen calls him a cat dad. Owen is being like very much. Yeah.
Also, by the way, my neighbors have a cat who comes over sometimes. And we all named the cat Rolf because we didn't know his real name. And he looked like a Rolf. And he just kind of Rolfs around. And eventually we discovered his actual name is Signor Gatto.
No.
Even better.
Which is a terrible name for a cat.
It is a little bit Signor Gatto.
But that was one of the names in the story.
Yes, it
was.
was. Wow.
Yep.
So we're coming up on a half hour. So another thing is, this I don't know the answer to, so you guys will help me. I mean, I kind of know the answer a little bit. I do, but not really. So why did the narrator finally send all those letters to his brother?
Yeah. What was the timing on that? That was after the breakup, but before Owen came back, right?
But after the conversation with Angel, where Angel's like, you're just trying not to get hurt. So it seems like maybe he took some of Angel's advice.
Yeah.
And applied it to the brother first. Yeah, I think that's what it is. But I think the reason why I want to dig deeper too is I'm just like, the thing with the brother seems so much more complicated,
Well, because that's also when Taku started sleeping on his chest finally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's like, okay, I'm going to do a family then.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. Exactly.
Right.
Let's do a family.
I'm going to do a family. This is the pieces of family I have. I'm going to do them. Maybe they're not the ones I would have picked.
I think that's actually the one part in the story where I did have a little bit of an emotional reaction. For most of the story I didn't, which I think is my biggest disappointment. But that part I did. And I remember thinking, this is really sweet. The brother's going to love finally receiving all these letters. He's been in a desert. He's not getting any, you know what I'm saying? Like getting all these letters from his brother on the outside. I hope that this is able to help them repair their relationship. Because the brother had tried. The brother had sent him letters in the beginning, So I'm like, he's going to have a great time reading through all these letters and seeing these updates for like the past year. It's been like a year, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then he sends, narrator sends him money every month. And that's not appreciated.
Well,
I mean,
is it appreciated? It's much relied upon.
Well, I think I can understand it a little bit from the brother's perspective. They already have a difficult relationship. They don't really talk. The brother did send him letters, never heard back. He needs the money.
Right.
Right? Like he needs it for like everything in jail is like super expensive, like to make a phone call. So like, I think there's like a thing here between like a sort of sense of like a familial duty versus like an actual familial bond. And now he's actually building the bond.
Right.
Yeah. He feels a sense of duty with that.
Right. They did the basic, like, I am bound to this.
Right.
Steps. And I was like, hey, I'm actually going to do a family.
Yeah.
I'm going to pet this cat.
Right. Also, there was
He'd
one
been in
sentence
prison for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
3 years.
Right. Yeah.
It's a lot of letters.
Yeah.
Also, I liked a woman I can't responsibly call my brother's girlfriend.
Yeah. I like that.
That's good.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else we want to say about the story? Maybe the prose, the way it was written.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it did this, dialogue without dialogue, speech marks thing, which is a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, Gerald likes speech marks though.
I like speech marks, but whatever.
I don't even notice it anymore.
No, well, it's only because it sort of irritates me very briefly, but it's a short story, so I can live with it. I won't knock any marks off for that. Just to point it out.
Okay.
And and that sort of goes to the point that I feel sometimes that he's trying too hard to write a good short story. I just wonder if he's working too hard at it, and it's not flowing. And we've got the shocking bit, and it's got people don't have speech marks with dialogue, so I'm going to do that. Maybe I'm being harsh.
I don't know. I think that's just the moment we're in. Most modern writing right now does not use quotation marks for speech, especially in literary things and short stories. A lot of the more modern stories we've read don't do it, right? Like I think it's like the style now, right? I think writing goes through styles and trends. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think
we could just add them in manually.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
I don't even notice it. Like until you mentioned it,
I did notice it at first, right? When it first happened, I was like, they're doing that thing, but then like I didn't keep at it.
Yeah,
but as Andy says, he does it well. I noticed it, but it didn't sort of irritate me, and I don't think at any point was I not aware of where the dialogue began and ended. So I don't know what I'm talking about. Just shut up and accept it. Senor Gatto. Yeah, cat son. Yeah. Interesting, cat son.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I liked, actually, real quick before I forget, about the way that he jumps back and forth between kind of like the more like domestic issues, cute family scenes with a pet, breakup, get together, with like some of the harder hitting scenes, the violence and everything else. That's a comment in an interview that the New Yorker did with him, where he made a comment about how that's how we live nowadays, right? Like, especially in America, like there's just like an assumption that violence can happen at any moment in your normal life. You can just go to the store and someone can just come in there with a gun and decide to make it a bad day for everyone in that store, right? And that's just like a thing that we've sort of accepted. And even another way, not just in our lives outdoors, but even in our lives digitally, as you scroll through a feed, it's like baby photos, cat videos, Miami housing collapse, right? Like all this different stuff, like random shootings and things like that. So the story doing that is sort of like mimicking the experience that we have as we like live in this modern society, which I thought was a good comment. I liked it, so I wanted to flag it.
And maybe it goes to the fact that we're inundated with content now, with news items, with stuff. So he says, you've got film footage of state-sanctioned killings alongside videos of adorable pandas, and you think, that there is that whole stuff, and you haven't got chance to engage deeply with any of it. You just think, that happened, and this happened. It's sort of it like puts like a fog over everything, so you just see it and you think, don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Kids today.
Kids.
With their social medias.
I blame Facebook.
Okay. Are we ready for rating?
Yeah. No.
Okay. I'll rate it, Gerald. And you ponder. And then we're going to come back to you. Maybe we'll do Anna East first. Maybe we'll do you next. Who's to say? But no, I think that the iceberg effect really got me here, right? After reading this story, I was like, meh, I liked it, but then meh. But I don't know. I like talking to you guys. Is that the story's fault? Or is that you guys' fault? Am I rating you or the story? Anyway, I've gone up, but I think I'm gonna give it a 5.
Mm-hmm. I had the same experience, Andy, but I knew that, right? Like reading the story, I was like, this is one of those iceberg stories. And when you talk, you're like, ooh, there's more there. Ooh, there's more there. So it's like the meaty kind of like literary game, right? A game is a dismissive way to put it. Not game, but like there is a certain sort of class of readers and writers who sort of enjoy this, like, I don't need to beat you over the head with my points. I'm going to give you a story that feels extremely honest, where not everything is revealed, and it's up to you, the reader, to do the work to find things, right? That there is a sort of style and audience for that. And I think this very neatly fits into that. So as soon as you discuss it, you do appreciate it more because you're like, clever, clever, clever. So I think for that reason, my rating's gone up too. But I at the same time, I do want to acknowledge, like, I think one of the drawbacks of stories that are like this, it's some people can have a good iceberg story that still takes an emotional ride and gives you stuff to chew on. I think when part of the emotional ride is missing, you don't draw in new audience, right? Because we're so used to being thrilled with our media. So if you want more people to think more deeply and maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's not your job as a writer to like appeal to a new audience to be like, oh, that was fun. But I wished it would. There are people who can do both. I think you should be able to do both. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm a little torn too. Like, there's a part of me that just wants to also give it a 5. But it's probably should I do a half point off? Like, should my first reading end on a meh? We all had a meh by the end of it. Mm-hmm. And it was in the discussion where we're like, there's a lot more going on here. Right. Which in the discussion, we just say there's a lot more going on here, which again, that's this sort of like genre. Like that's what this is. And people enjoy doing this. And we enjoy doing it. We have a podcast dedicated to it, right? Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to keep it at a 5 because I'm one of the people who enjoys doing this. There's a whole podcast dedicated to it, right? But I do still just want to like it's like 5 with a little asterisk. Like, but I do wish the surface level story didn't end on a meh the first time you read it.
It's a 5 with a meh.
It's 5 with a meh. 5 point meh. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I and that it is quite hard to rate something like this, and I suppose it's like bad art, isn't it? No art is bad. It's all good, even if it creates discussion. So, but like you, Anise, I would like to have a sort of stronger, more enjoyable, above the waterline story. Mm-hmm. And then you become aware that there's a lot more beneath the surface. And because they're short fiction, so most short fiction's like this. So I think I don't know. I'm gonna. No, it's me. It's my rating.
Mm-hmm.
3.
Ooh. Okay. That's fine. I like when we have contentious things. Mm-hmm.
Because it put me off and it drove me out of the story, and it, I have admitted that that's probably me, and it's probably me being
but it's your
prudish old white straight English guy. So I've got everything against me.
That's really. The trifecta: white, straight, and English.
Yes. I should be a minority, shouldn't I? I'm dying out. So yeah, it's 3. Thank you. I'll shut up there.
Okay. So next week we are reading The Specialist Hat by Kelly Link. I'm really excited because I was like looking, like I wanted to go back into like fantasy world a little bit, and they were like, this story starts creepy and gets creepier. I'm like, what? Yes, let's do it. Let's go creepy. So let's find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
So before you go, tell us about your cat's cough in our Facebook discussion group, the Literary Roadhouse Readers. And we're not in podcast prison, so write us a letter on iTunes and support our podcast at patreon.com/Literary Roadhouse. Every bit helps. And as always, share this podcast with the neighbor you hate most. Oh no, that was from last week. I didn't change this. I gotta do that again.
Yeah.
Well, and as always, share this podcast with your one true love in Japan. There you go. Until next time, read a good story. I thought I had edited it, but I must not have.
Hey, you know what's a fun word to say?
What?
Edited it.
Edited.
Edited it.
Yeah.
Edited it.
It's 2 words.
Edited
Really,
it.
Yeah, it's 2.
Yeah.
well,
For
you
the
can run
longest
them
time, I
together.
thought I had no accent, but people have been telling me for a long time that I do. And I only recently I've been doing these like tutorial videos. We're still live, but a glimpse into my life for my job. And as I play back these videos, I'm just like, I can't say words. So that's true.
Now, what is true is that I have no accent.
Kind of.
Readers, discuss.
Yeah, discuss.
Yes.
Which one of us have?
No accent.
It's funny. Gerald's probably like, I'm the only one that actually doesn't have an accent because the language is
You speak in
English,
the Queen's
and
English.
I am English.
I'm speaking the Queen's English, of course. It's our
You
language.
said you're
so I
not
speak it
common. Are you
proper.
royal?
Those are the 2 options.
Well, no, there it is a grey area. It is that there's common. We use common to describe. I don't know how you describe it. Is it oiks or noisy people, badly educated people? We call them common.
Yeah, but are you landed?
People who say fuck. I mean that sort of thing. They're common.
I've heard you say fuck several times on this very podcast.
How common of you?
Yes, but when I say it, it's in quotation marks.
Oh, you're referring to someone else's fuck.
We know why Gerald loves quotation marks.
Yeah, exactly. They cover a multitude of sins. So
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
All right.
we go. Stop.
Right, I don't know how to sign off now because
Goodbye,
No,
everybody.
you've
Goodbye.
ruined our sign off.